Hi everybody, Heather Rodriguez here, and I have another great natural fertility video for you. We're going to be covering a topic today that is one that we get a lot of common questions about. It's something that affects a lot of women, and we're going to talk about natural ways to increase progesterone. So there's a couple different approaches to this, but I first want to talk about kind of laying the groundwork, what progesterone is and what it does in the body. So during your monthly cycle, you have your estrogen at the beginning of your cycle that's building and that's growing your uterine lining. And then ovulation occurs, and then progesterone jumps in, and this is going to help maintain that uterine lining that the estrogen stimulated the growth of. And progesterone also increases the temperature within the body, which is kind of getting ready to incubate that embryo. And it's going to help maintain that lining so implantation can occur. So estrogen is more stimulating for growth. It causes growth within the body, whereas progesterone helps to maintain its progestation. So it's maintaining that environment for the embryo to implant and then the placenta to grow and to maintain a pregnancy. So that's the difference between those two hormones. It's in a nutshell, very simplified. But those are some of the main actions as it pertains to fertility. So when you're experiencing low progesterone, there may not be enough progesterone to help keep that uterine lining intact long enough for implantation to occur. We could also have a situation where that luteal phase is too short, and that can be caused by low progesterone as well as low estrogen. So remember that it's not always just because of low progesterone, but that luteal phase needs to be 11 or 12 days or longer. If it's shorter than that, then there's not enough time for implantation to occur. So that's another kind of negative effect of low progesterone. Also, recurrent miscarriage. One of the main causes of recurrent miscarriage is low progesterone. It's not always the case, but if you don't have enough progesterone, it's not maintaining that uterine lining and helping to maintain that pregnancy. So there's a lot of different reasons that healthy progesterone levels are important. But what do you do when you have low progesterone? So the first thing is I want you to make sure that you do have low progesterone. I talk to a lot of people who that's one of their guesses, and they just want to get going on something, they want to get started. I must have low progesterone because this is happening. I really am a proponent of getting testing done so that you are doing the right steps and you're focusing the right direction and you're not wasting time. Because not only can you waste time if you're working on the wrong thing, you can also get your cycle off track and you have to get that back on track. So I just want to make sure that you know that is what's happening with you. Just one second, I need my tea. So there's a couple different ways of doing that. The first is to go to a doctor and get a progesterone test, either saliva or blood, depending on what method they like to use best. Some doctors will not do progesterone testing. They don't believe in it, old school, all of that. So I suggest to find a new doctor if that happens to be your experience with your doctor. Also, I really like to suggest going to reproductive endocrinologist, an RE, to get any type of fertility or hormone testing done. It's what their specialty is. They know the latest numbers that are necessary for healthy fertility and all of that. So I definitely would go to a specialist, which is an RE, reproductive endocrinologist, for that testing. You can also, if you don't want to go to the doctor or you don't have the money to do that, you can do two other things. You can fertility chart. Fertility charting is completely free, and you're going to learn so much about your fertility. If you've never fertility charted, I highly suggest it if you're trying to get pregnant. So what's going to happen when you're fertility charting is you're going to see from your period until ovulation, you're going to kind of have like regular temperatures. And once you ovulate, there's going to be a big dip that happens that's going to tell you you've ovulated, and then your temperature is actually going to rise. That's when progesterone is kicking in, because progesterone increases the temperature within the body, and that will continue to rise, and either that will drop when the estrogen kicks back in and your period begins, or it will continue to rise because you are pregnant and that progesterone is high for helping to maintain that pregnancy. Also with charting, you're going to be able to see if luteal phase defect might be a possible issue, where that period of time after ovulation and the next possible period is not long enough for implantation to occur. That is a very common fertility issue that can be remedied and supported very easily. Something else you can tell on the chart that's a side note is if you might want to get some thyroid testing. If your temperatures are pretty low kind of overall, you don't ever see much change in them, that's another sign to kind of look into, that you might want to get thyroid testing done. Both of those issues are very common. Hypothyroidism happens to be something that's on the rise, unfortunately. It's very common in the age group of women who are trying to get pregnant, as is low progesterone. So some of the things to think about you know, when you're charting is you have to be regular. You have to do it at the same time every single day so that your temperature can be held against yesterday's temperature. So you're looking for a pattern. There's apps that can help with this, or there's free charts you can print online. The third thing you can do to test to see if your progesterone levels are healthy is to use an over-the-counter urine progesterone test. This is something that's new that I'm really excited about. They look just like the OPK test or the cheap pregnancy test you can get at like the dollar store. They're just like the strip test that you do a urine test with, and that can tell you if you are low in progesterone. So there's a lot of different options now so that you can tell what's going on with your body. So that's important. So if you have determined you do have low progesterone, and that is a concern of yours, you also need to consider, is it high estrogen that's causing the low progesterone? If your test comes back that you have low progesterone, then that's going to be directly correlated to that. But also, you might want to get your estrogen tested. So if there's an estrogen-progesterone ratio that's ideal. If your estrogen's really high, especially with conditions such as PCOS, endometriosis, uterine fibroids, anytime there's some type of issue where there's a lot of growth happening, that can cause progesterone to be low because there's so much estrogen in the system. So we're actually going to address both when we're trying to increase progesterone naturally. So let's go ahead and jump right into the tips, but make sure these foundational things that I talked about are really important. Don't just jump to these things like I said, because it could affect your cycle and your fertility if you don't have this issue going on. Okay. So the first thing is to support your body's natural ability to produce hormones and to have healthy hormonal balance. So the first thing is always going to be to eat a healthy diet that has an abundance of whole foods, an abundance of fiber, abundance of phytonutrients, everything. So basically eating a whole food diet and staying away from processed foods as much as possible. And the foods that you do purchase, those being organic as possible. Know what the dirty dozen is, at least focus on that, and focus on the animal products being organic. Very important. A lot of the pesticides that are compounded in foods that the animals eat are xenoestrogens, which can cause your estrogens to be high, which in turn can make the progesterone low. So that's why I talk about that so much and why organics are important. Fiber is so important because that helps to get rid of excess estrogens from the body. So if you do have some type of excess going on that's affecting your overall hormonal levels, fiber binds to that and helps to take it out of the body. The other thing is to think of how to remove xenohormones from your diet and lifestyle. Xenohormones are found in pesticides, they're found in chemicals, they're found in skincare, hair care products. These are compounds that mimic estrogen in the body, but they have a much stronger stimulating effect on the receptor sites. So that's going to have a stronger estrogen effect, and you're going to have stronger, higher estrogen within the body, causing lower progesterone. Okay, so that's why I'm talking about estrogen so much, because no hormone stands alone. I have another video that goes into much more depth on how to do all of that. And also reducing stress. Having high cortisol levels in the body another hormone is going to affect your overall hormonal balance. So stress isn't going away. Finding something in your life to help manage your stress. Exercise, meditation, walks, time alone, whatever, yoga, whatever it needs to be. Have something regular to reduce stress. I personally love taking hot baths and using essential oils. Those are my go-to, and exercise helps a lot in time in nature. So that's kind of my plan, but make sure you have a plan for managing stress. Okay, now we're going to go, that's foundational. Those need to be done in order for these herbs or these therapies to work. So there's two herbs that are my go-tos when we are wanting to help to increase progesterone, and they all work a little bit differently. The first is going to be maca. Maca doesn't directly affect progesterone, but it's a superfood for the endocrine system. So it helps to support endocrine health and endocrine function and support. The endocrine system is the hormonal system. It's the system that is going to orchestrate the very complex hormonal orchestra that happens in the body on a monthly basis that makes all of these actions happen. So helping to support the system is going to make it to function better. We're not going to just do all these things to increase progesterone. We want to take a step back and really just help the overall system, because something must be off or needing some type of support if this is happening, right? So maca is fantastic for that. Maca is more of a tonic herb. It can be used daily. It's very supportive. It can be used by both men and women. We have a maca capsule, a maca powder, and a maca tincture. I use all of them in very different ways. We have tons of information on our website about how to use Maca and how to have it in your daily life. Capsules tend to be the simplest, just depends on how many different things you're taking. The next is going to be Vitex. So Vitex is great because this actually helps to support the pituitary gland. And Vitex has been shown in studies to help to increase progesterone as well as lengthen a short luteal phase. So when you're charting and you're seeing that you have luteal phase defect, Vitex is fantastic for that. People who are also experiencing high prolactin, studies have shown Vitex to help to reduce that prolactin and also increase progesterone. Again, if you're breastfeeding, not again, but if you're breastfeeding, I have a whole video about Vitex and breastfeeding. There's other herbs that can be used while you're breastfeeding to support fertility. I wouldn't suggest Vitex because it does reduce prolactin and could cause your milk to reduce. So Vitex and Maca, those are the two main herbs. Also using other endocrine supporting herbs can be great, such as shatavari or ashwagandha. Ashwagandha is great because if you are someone who's really stressed out, that's going to help support the endocrine system as well as stress. So something else to consider. That's kind of just a supportive side herb to look into. And then the last is progesterone cream. Progesterone cream is something that is available that we use. It's not my first go-to because it's just helping with the top layer of the issue. It's just helping with the top, with the progesterone levels directly. But I do find it very helpful because it's very specific. So you know how much you're getting. You can apply it to the skin. It absorbs into the skin. But you have to be careful. You need to know when you're ovulating. If you use it before you've ovulated, it will actually suppress ovulation. So that's kind of backwards. So you definitely want to know either you're charting or you know your body really well before you use the progesterone cream. You only want to use it after you've ovulated, and then you use it up until you have your period begin. Once you start bleeding, or if you're pregnant, you continue it. Contact your healthcare provider, let them know you're pregnant and that you're on progesterone cream and would like to be monitored because you're using progesterone cream to supplement your body's progesterone. And they will monitor you, and then you go from there. They might want to put you on a progesterone prescription depending on where your levels are at, but you need to be monitored. You do not stop the progesterone cream right away when you're pregnant. That would possibly cause a drop in your progesterone. So contact your practitioner right away. As it comes to the Vitex, once you're pregnant, you would want to wean off of that over a two-week period of time. So you just take a little bit less and a little bit less. And let your practitioner know you were using this to supplement your progesterone. It's really important to communicate with them because early pregnancy, the first trimester, you want your progesterone to be monitored so that you know you have the right amounts and that you're going to maintain that pregnancy. By the second trimester, the placenta will take over producing the progesterone. First trimester, the ovaries are producing progesterone. So once the placenta generally is producing progesterone, it's producing huge amounts, but they'll still want to monitor you if you have had low progesterone at the beginning of your pregnancy. But this is really, really important. The other reason I say to get monitored and not just use the cream secretively is because the amounts that you need progress on a daily basis with pregnancy. And there's a certain point where you're going to have to be rubbing so much cream in your body, it's just not going to be possible. So if you are having progesterone issues, to work with your practitioner so that they can make sure that you're on the right track. So that's basically it. Oh, there's also a question that we get often, that's progesterone cream versus wild yam cream. I prefer straight up progesterone cream so the body does not have to turn it into a usable form, so we know exactly how much you're getting. So if you're going to be using the cream, I like to know 40 milligrams. So there you go. That's how you can increase progesterone naturally. I hope you found this helpful. And everything works best together when we're helping to support the overall body and the body's natural ability to function in a balanced, healthy way, instead of just addressing, okay, I'm just going to focus on the progesterone. There's so much happening underneath that's showing up as low progesterone. So I hope you found this helpful. If you did, please leave a comment. Let me know. If you have any questions, put them in the comments below. Also, let us know how you like these videos and if there's any future videos you would like us to do. All right, thank you so much. Have a good day. Bye.